Oh, hello, hello. This is Andy over at Falco Canine Academy. Glad to see you. One thing I want to let you know, if you don't already know this, I do a couple things here on Facebook. I have, of course, Falco Canine Academy, where we do a lot of dog training stuff. We have our private groups. I have a mastermind group that I run, and I have another thing called the Facebook Live TV show, where I teach people how to do Facebook Live and use all the tools that we're using. So if you're ever interested in that, feel free to go to the Facebook Live TV show. An interesting thing that I'm doing right now is I'm using Switcher Studio. If you happen to watch the earlier broadcast before noon on the incident that happened over in Belmont Shores and the Long Beach Police Department Canine Unit, that I was using Be Live. And so I'm able to share the comments there and that kind of stuff. On this one, I'm using just simply an iPad, my computer, and an iPhone for extra cameras, and I cannot share your comments. So sometimes you're going to see that I share your comments, sometimes I don't, and that's because I can't, because I love sharing the comments that come in. First of all, I also, if you watched the earlier broadcast, I shed the sweatshirt because I got so many people that jumped on my case about how cold it was here. It's like 59 degrees here. It's freezing. And people were saying, you got to be kidding me. I live in wherever, Nebraska, or I came from wherever, and you don't know what cold is. Well, you're right. I actually have. I was in Philadelphia not a couple weeks ago, more than a couple weeks ago, maybe a month and a half ago, and it was 12 below zero. I was in Nebraska. I was in Minnesota. So I do know what cold is, but this morning to me, it was really cold, regardless of what you all say, and including my new friend, Kim, who just texted me. So that was really funny. Yeah, so what we're going to be talking about today, it has to do with a question that came up in the super secret bedbug detection dog group. And that's a private group. If you are interested in bedbug detection, I know there's a couple people that have asked to join. I need you to answer the 3 questions, though. If you don't, when you request to join a group, in some groups like mine, there's 3 questions that you have to answer that are asked of you before you can enter, and I need you to answer those questions. Regardless of what the answers are, there's a good chance you'll still be admitted into the group. I just need to know why you want to be in the super secret group of bedbug detection. I'm not going to give you the answers. Just read the questions and tell me what it is that brings you to the group and why you want to join. That would be really important. I'm trying to find... Oh, you know what? Shoot, I forgot. I was looking for a way to share the URL that allows you to join the broadcast if you want to join me. But again, I'm using Switcher Studio. That is not one of the capabilities for this particular thing. In Be Live, you can have people come on, and now you can have 4 people at a time on screen. So that is not a possibility. Somebody was just asking me, and let me just respond to them. I would... all these are different kinds of platforms that you use to get on, and it goes through Facebook. I'm not going directly from the Facebook app. Anyway, back to the bedbug detection dog group. Sometimes questions get asked in there that are specific to bedbugs. I thought this question was interesting because it covers not just bedbug detection, but I think some people might find it interesting that just in the issue of finding detection dogs interesting and how dogs work and that kind of stuff. So I'm going ahead and talk about that just a little bit here. So there we go. All right, got that out of the way. All right, so oh, I didn't push my button here. Too many things going on. I got 5 different things going on. I got to have, of course, you have to have your logo that you took the time to have created so that you could do this thing that's really nice and cool, and have everything running. So when training any detection dog, it is really, really important that you understand what it is that you're teaching your dog to find. So you have to make sure that whatever it is you're teaching your dog to find, that you're very specific in that thing. So regardless if it's a narcotics dog, a bomb dog, or a bedbug detection dog, peanut dog, it doesn't matter. You have to find the things that you need for this dog to find that are related to that family, that family of odor, right? So in relationship to illegal narcotics, you want to make sure that, because you're going to be getting search warrants based on your dog's alert, you're going to be doing warrantless search based on your dog's alert. You have to make sure that whatever you're teaching your dog to find is illegal, really important. I can talk about that forever. I testify in a lot of court cases involving detection dogs, and this is one of the issues that comes up all the time, is that what is this dog actually trained to find? And in some cases, they're trying not only the illegal substance, but sometimes legal substance. And once you do that, there should not be any way that once that dog is trained the legal substance to find reliably, that it can be used to get a search warrant. And that's kind of a blanket statement, but actually it's a fairly good blanket, right? There's maybe a couple holes in the blanket, but it's important to understand that. So in the question in the bedbug group, it was and this is an example of something that you might use as a training aid. This is like a block of wood. I'm not an artist, obviously, but this is a block of wood. In the block of wood, and this is just an example of what could be used. You have either like some PVC pipes that are screwed onto the piece of wood, and then they kind of stand up, and you're able to put like things like this, like another pipe that kind of goes in there that has the training aid or the odor that you train the dog. That you put it, and you can move it from one spot to the next. Now, there's probably going to be more spots in this, but because of just it's a drawing, just understand that normally there would probably be more. I have one of those right over here that we use that has more. All right, so this is a training board that allows you to kind of be able to play kind of a shell game with the dog to, to make sure and reinforce and imprint the odor that you're trying to teach the dog. All right, and so this was one of the things. This was the subject matter of this particular question. The question being, and let me go ahead and switch to my other camera here. The question being is, if you're putting an odor in here, is there a chance that the odor coming off of this thing, that's what these little red dots represent, the molecule odor coming off of this thing, coming onto this piece of wood, is that going to cause your dog to be attracted, once he's trained to find the odor that you've trained him, is it going to cause him to be attracted to this spot because now the odor has left this training aid and came out and now deposited itself in the pores of the wood? Is that going to be problematic? And the answer I gave on the group is that yes and no. All right, it can be, but it probably is not. But and here's some of the reasons why. And this is going to be a little bit difficult to explain, I think, and I'm hoping I'll get some feedback here with anybody that might be watching, that it's going well and you're understanding what it is I'm talking about. So as you can see, what happens with something is, let's just say, this is the thing you're training the dog to find. Now this is a hard piece of plastic, right? But there's an odor that comes off of plastic. Have you ever opened a box of a brand new device like some type of DVR or something like that? When you open up, you have that smell, the distinct smell of an electronic device. It always has that one smell that you go, you know what? That's what a electronic device smells like. That has that smell. Now, what is that smell? Is it the plastic? Is it the motherboard? Is it the batteries? Is it the oils that they put on the springs? If they put oil on springs, I don't know. Is it the silicone or silicon that's on the motherboard itself as opposed to just the motherboard? What is that odor? And sometimes it's the mixture of all those odors put together that creates the odor that you recognize. The difference between us and the dog is the dog breaks up all those odors separately. So the dog smells the different chemicals in the batteries separately. It smells the housing separately. It smells the silicone or silicon different, separately. The dog actually separates all those odors where we smell it as one big odor. All right. So this thing has this distinct odor, and these odor, the reason you can smell it from a distance is because the scent molecules are coming off of this thing and kind of flying through the air, entering our nose, and then getting into our olfactory system, and it makes an odor that we recognize and smell. The harder the substance, the fewer the molecules, the softer the substance, the more abundant the molecules. All right, so now we're talking about bed bugs, live bed bugs that are in this vial. So I wish I would have brought a vial. It's right over there. I can almost reach it. Actually, I'm going to go get it so you can see it. All right, now, and I'll keep talking, and you can hear me. But the vial itself has odor, and then the bugs inside the vial also have odor. Oh, good. There's two different kinds of vials here. And so, again, this is going to be a long explanation, and hopefully it'll be interesting to some of you and probably not all of you. All right, so we have a larger vial, right? And then we have a smaller vial. So both of these have bed bugs in them, but the more abundant thing is the vial itself. So the odor of the vial is more prominent than the bugs that are in there, because in each one there's probably 4 bugs, I think, in here. In here I think it has 2. So you got 2 tiny little bugs. Oh, I'm sorry, 6 bugs in this one. So 6 bugs in this vial is a lot smaller than the vial, the cap, and the screen, and the cardboard, and everything else that's inside. And although this is a smaller vial, the same thing. The bugs are clearly smaller than whatever. In the screen that's at the top here, the odor is coming out. So that's kind of what I've represented there, is a vial sitting on a piece of wood, and the odor is coming out. All right, so hopefully that makes that pretty clear about what I'm talking about. All right, so let's say that this sits here for a while and the odor molecules are coming out and depositing onto the wood. Now, if there's pores and there's cracks and there's all kinds of things in there for that odor to kind of get stuck in, is the odor going to stay there for a little while? Yes, absolutely. I've seen it. I've seen dogs kind of get attracted to where something's been for a little while, and they show interest in it, just like they show interest in a lot of other things. But they'll show interest in this spot on the wood if you were to remove that vial. I'm going to remove this vial in a minute, but I don't want to do it yet. All right. So the longer it stays there and the molecules keep coming out and falling down onto that piece of wood, the longer or the more substantial the molecules are. And I again, since we can't see it, I can't prove this right off the bat, but I have a pretty strong feeling because of other things that I've seen and other people that I've talked to and some of the studies that I've read that essentially the odor kind of comes out, and then it's just like anything else. It kind of starts piling on, and then so you have the things, the molecules that first came out are actually on the surface. Then you got the piling of the molecules, and then they're kind of landing on each other and kind of pouring off, and kind of like water will begin to kind of just move away. So if I were to take more red dots, where's my red? There it is. So if I were to take more red dots, over a period of time, you can see they would start to spread out and they would start to pile on each other and that kind of stuff. All right. So that's kind of happening. If a breeze comes up, then it blows away some of these molecules, and they become a little bit less. And then now they start spreading over here. So let's say there's a breeze coming this direction, that actually the vials or the molecules will begin to come over in this direction, and they become less and less. And so then you have kind of what the dog will recognize as the less the odor, the dog is on the fringe, and then as he gets closer, the odor gets stronger, and then the dog makes the find to the strongest odor. All right. So what happens? And this is the question: once you remove the vial, so we're going to take this vial out of here, and now the odor that's in the air goes away, and the only thing left down here is the odor that has left the vial and it's kind of stuck there. Now let's say we move the vial and now put it over here, right? And so it's over here, and then you have the odor coming out and begins to deposit, right? So the concern is that you may cause confusion in your dog if you can't bring him over here and run him over here to where now he's going to come over here and smell all this odor and then possibly alert, and then you don't reward him, and that could be a problem, or you do reward him and that could be a problem, and blah, 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 blah. So here's what's happening, and here's what goes on all the time. So you have actual substance. That's the one. They're not in order. I just was putting things down and they're not in order. So we're going to talk about this first, even though it's the third thing down on the bullet list. But you have your actual substance, which is here, and you have this odor. This is what we want to really train the dog to find. Okay? This is what we really want to train the dog to find, is this thing. The actual substance is what we want the dog to find. All right? I don't worry about this. Whether this is a piece of wood, whether this is a PVC pipe, whether this is cinder blocks that I'm using, the odor that's been left behind by the actual substance that was there for a minute or an hour or 2 hours is actually really good to train your dog through. Because we want to begin to have the dog ignore minute particles of the odor he's trained to find and only show us where substance is. Because if you don't do that, if you train a dog to find this stuff too, which you can, then you're going to have a dog alerting at places where there is nothing to be found. There's no actual substance, right? It's got to be always about the actual substance. And so I actually like the fact that things are left behind, because then you're teaching your dog, okay, we don't necessarily want to find, if it's a narcotics dog, we don't necessarily want to find the little roach that's underneath the seat. We want the dog to begin to ignore that. I want you to show me where the ounce of marijuana is, or cocaine. No more marijuana in California or Colorado. So let's go to cocaine. We don't want the dog to find the powder that kind of fell out of the baggie onto the floorboard necessarily. Now he can show us interest, like he's kind of interested in that, but we don't want him to sit here. We don't want him to alert here. We want him to only alert where the ounce of cocaine is, right? And you teach them that by not worrying about this stuff so much. And again, I think sometimes we worry about these little things, but in actuality, this is really important, the thing that happens. Because what we're doing is we're teaching the dog the threshold between, and this is what this would be the threshold. The threshold is too low, and this is what we want. We want the dog to find substance, right? Substance in this area. The threshold, lower threshold, which is residual odor, is one way of putting it. Sorry, you can't even read my writing over here. Residual odor, we want him to ignore. All right? And this is how, either on purpose or by accident, we teach a dog to ignore. Hope you're feeling better. Thank you. Who wrote that? It doesn't tell me who wrote that. Thank you. I am feeling better. Just a lot of shenanigans going on. But we want the dog to, the threshold is, we want the dog to ignore residual odor and only find substance. And this is kind of one of the things that allows us to do that. Because you also have things that can happen, which is transferred odor. And that happens because we held this vial. When I hold this vial and look for a hiding spot and have it in this hand, the odor of the bed bugs and the vial and everything is getting transferred to my hand. Right? Then I open up this door to see if this is, can you see that? No, there's a door here. Hold on. If I try to get it back here, but it doesn't go back here, or try to lift this up and then try to put it there and decide, you know what? I put it there for a second and I leave it. Now I've transferred odor to this spot underneath the whiteboard. I'm trying to see if you see that. So I've transferred. So that's transferred odor. And you can see many a time, and if there's any trainers watching, you've seen this too, where oh, hi, Chrissy. If you see the dog get interested in a place where you've done this, you've seen that, right? Where the dog is smelling the transferred odor. Now, honestly, the transferred odor may be some of the training aid, but in several instances, it is your odor as the trainer that the dog has become used to being associated with the training aid. So it's transferred odor, your odor, the bed bug odor, the vial odor has been transferred. So we also want the dog not only to ignore residual odor, we want him to ignore transferred odor. I was just talking about how horrible I am at spelling in my grammar earlier today. So this is, again, below that threshold, right? So these things are under the threshold, right? So we want the dog to ignore transferred odor and residual odor. We do that by accident and on purpose because we want to teach the dog that you need to ignore some of these things that are going to happen in a natural training environment. They just happen. All right? And then, did I cover it all? Yeah. So we have all the things, right? And we got, and I didn't circle the residual. So we got residual odor, threshold. The actual substance is the most important thing that we want the dog to find. This is a big mess. I know that you can hardly see anything. And we want the dog to ignore transferred odor. This is so important, so misunderstood, and it comes up so many times in my court cases. I cannot tell you how hard and how hard it is to explain it, and how often I have to try to do it, because we see this all the time. It's so misused in explaining why a dog alerted. My dog alerted because back when this car was built, the guy who built the car was smoking pot on his brake, and when he came back from his break, he got his pot odor all over it. Well, the car was built in 2005. Yeah, but it stays for a really long time, so that's why the dog alerted. And then you can have some other thing where it's just the opposite, where he's saying, my dog didn't alert, but yet there was a pound of narcotics inside. Well, why didn't he alert? Well, he didn't need to. It was too far back from something. So you're going to tell me that your dog alerted to the smell of marijuana from a guy who built the car in 2005, but he didn't sit to the pound of narcotics that was in the vehicle because it was in a spot that was too far away from where he could find it. Yes. What? What? Do you know how minute the odor would be from a man in 2005 who built a 2017 vehicle who smoked marijuana on his brake? When the vehicle was actually built in 2014, you're going to tell me that, and judges buy it all the time. Yes, yes, Your Honor. That's what happened. No, because every dog, every police dog, and I'm sorry I'm yelling, every police dog, you're doing it now, if that's Chrissy asking the question. I'm not sure why it's not telling me who you are that's asking the questions. But yeah, this is one way, is by listening to my Facebook Lives. But this is the way that we train the dogs, the threshold. Again, this is by accident. When we're training police dogs, there's always those places that we train at. You got the city yard, you got the dealership that lets us use some of the cars that are, been returned and not going to be sold. The tow yard lets us come to their tow yard. Brookhurst Tow in Anaheim and Dubois in Anaheim, or Dubois, how they really pronounce it, but we all called it Dubois, that we go to and train. We had a couple churches that would allow us to train, that kind of stuff. We didn't just use those places one time, right? We used them on, January 3rd, and hid narcotics in the file cabinet and in the drawer of the secretary, and then in the closet where they hang the robes for the pastor, right? Or preacher or priest. And we searched it, the dogs found it, and we left, right? And then we come back a week later, and now we hide them in the third pew in the right column of the sanctuary. We hide them in the kitchen, and we hide them somewhere else. Now the dogs pass by where we had hidden them before, and they don't alert. Why? Because we told the dog that if you do smell something that was left over from the last time we were here, you are to ignore it, because there's no substance there. Right? No substance. And the reason we know this happens is because when the dog goes to a place where we knew we hit it before and shows any interest, we tell him no, and he alerts and we don't reward him. And we only reward him when he comes over here and makes the find of substance. And that's where he gets the reward. So I know this happens. Right? We use the same vehicles quite often that are in the city yard. We use the same vehicles because, again, we don't have a lot of choices. Dogs tend to scratch things. Dogs will jump on the hoods and things like that. So we don't want to use really nice cars. So we use the same beat up cars over and over. One day we put it in the bumper. One day we put it under the license plate. One day we put it in the rearview mirror. One day we put it, in the hubcap. One day we put it in the door and close the door on it there in the separation between the two doors, and it constantly changes. But the dog's searching the same vehicle that we've hidden narcotics on only days before, and now you're going to come to court and say, well, my dog alerted because somebody smoked pot in there 5 years earlier. Cousin Spicoli was in the vehicle and brought some pot in, and that's why the dog alerted. And you're going to use that as an excuse. Right? But no, this doesn't happen in training all the time. So we teach this stuff all the time. So I love the question. I love the question that was in the Facebook group. Is this a problem that the odor can be left behind on the wood that we're using? It is not a problem, and yes, it does get left behind. And yes, the dogs do smell it because the noses on a dog are so freaking powerful, you would not even believe it. 1 part per trillion is what these dogs smell at, and they can find, and we've proven it in the study I did with UC Davis and wrote a scientific paper, was able to publish that one, able to show that the dogs are able to find a 0.01 microliters of a contamination. That is really small. If you don't know, 0.01 microliters is super, super small. We even had a couple dogs that did find stuff that was 0.001 microliters on some substance, and that did happen too. So, yeah, so if we train the dog to find this stuff, he will find it and he will alert to it. But we don't, because we teach the dog to ignore it, because he doesn't get rewarded for, at least he better not get rewarded where there is some residual substance. We only reward him where there is actual substance, and that's how we train a dog through it. And that's why that is not a big deal, and that's why it's important. One of the other people, let me go ahead and change my camera angle here so I can sit back down. I'm exhausted from my explanation. That's amazing. I know it's amazing. And I hope that made sense. I hope I finally was able to use my whiteboard in a way that kind of made sense. And I'm sorry, this thing's kind of, oh, look at that. Who am I interviewing there? Oh, a guy, they have the harness. Oh, darn, well, my thing's supposed to repeat. Let me put that back on. There we go. And so there was one other comment on there about these wheels that are used. I am not a huge fan of the wheel. I forget what they even call it. It's like a wagon wheel type of thing. I'm not a huge fan of the wheel. It's just not something that should continue on. Now, I use cinder blocks to begin a dog and teach them the odor, and we go through that process. If you've not seen that process, if you just scroll down on the Falco Canine Academy, or if you're watching this on the left-hand side, look over there in the left-hand column where it says videos. Click on videos and scroll down until you see a video and you can see the cinder blocks on the ground. That's how I start a dog. We only go back to the cinder blocks when we need to work on something specific. We don't use that as a regular training method because it is just really unrealistic. The best way to train is realistic training. Every so often you could come back to those basic tools to kind of reinforce something, but I would not purchase and take my hard-earned money and buy a wagon wheel that really can be overused and it's just not a great tool. And I've been doing this a really long time, and I've seen the wheel. I've had people demonstrate it to me. I've talked about it. I've even tried it and saw how it can be used, but I don't think that it's worth anything. I really don't. Just go to Home Depot and buy 10 cinder blocks for less than $10. I think it's like probably $6 or something like that to buy 10 and have those ready to go and put them somewhere. And then every so often you're going to bring them out and you're going to work on something. Put a stake in one of the cinder blocks, put 2 or 3 tennis balls, another cinder block, put some kibble in a cinder block, and then put the thing you want the dog to find, and teach him to pass by all those other things that he's really attracted to. And then when he gets to the bed bugs, the narcotics, the explosives, the peanuts, whatever you're teaching your dog to find, and when he sits, you're going to reward him like it is the greatest thing on the planet. It may take forever to get him to go past the stake, right? That's in the cinder block. Please don't let him get it, right? You don't want him to self-reward and get it and get it out, or the tennis balls or anything else. And you can cover them up with something, but the odor and the actual substance will still be there. But that's a great way to train. And a cinder block is much larger. It's easier to control, and you can put them anywhere. It's not in this circle, this wagon wheel thing. And you can actually take and put them in different corners of your garage, or you put them on your driveway, or you put them in your backyard, or you take them to the neighbor's house across the street and put them somewhere over there. And they're really easy to use. The reason we like to use those is because you can contain the odor in a place where you know it, where the dog can smell it, and it's probably going to be out the top. And you can put just about anything in there. You can hose down the cinder blocks and clean them up, and then kind of reuse them and that kind of thing. I tend to like to keep them kind of contaminated because of this stuff. That is really an odd looking picture. When you don't know what it's all about, you don't know what it is. But I hope that it served its purpose in explaining what it was I was talking about. All right, does anybody else have any questions? I have Chrissy, who was on here. She said... well, I'm not sure if she said this, but it's possible. So I'm interested in learning scent training. How do you begin the process? Again, I have so many videos on my Facebook page and the YouTube channel that you can surely find enough to keep you busy for a little bit. And then if you want to learn more, give us a call. And I do have some classes that we can teach and that kind of thing, and not a problem. We can take care of that for you. Sometimes that did smell. Sometimes that did smell can help in some investigation or not. Like the residual or the dog smelling something, it can. But here's the problem with believing. The belief that anything your dog may be interested is that he's only interested in the trained odor. The thought or the aspect that I know the difference when my dog is smelling narcotics as opposed to something else. Now, it'd be a very long discussion. I have hid other things in a room with some of the best canine handlers on the planet and had them call alerts, and in fact it was Kentucky Fried Chicken that I hid, right? It wasn't narcotics. Or that I put a piece of beef jerky somewhere, or I put some tennis balls somewhere. And the handlers hate it when I do that. And they hated me quite often. And a lot of handlers did not come to me because they knew I did stuff like this. And it wasn't to make them look stupid. It was to make them better. right? You have to understand, truly understand what your dog can and can't do. And the information that your dog is interested in something is good investigation and could help. So here's the difference between a bedbug dog having interest in something and a narcotics dog. So if your bedbug dog is searching and they show interest on a chair inside a room that is believed to have had bedbugs in it or currently does have bedbugs in it, that alert is going to tell you, or that interest, not the alert, I'm sorry, the interest in that chair without the alert is good information. You're going to say, okay, my dog was interested in that chair, but he didn't sit. Could it be the peanut butter and jelly sandwich that's stuck in the cushions because they have a 2-year-old who stuck a sandwich in the cushions? Yes, it could be. But it could also be bed bugs, right? So you're continuing your search. Your dog actually sits and alerts on, the nightstand. You're going to examine both probably, right? You put your dog away. You come in and say, my dog sat at the nightstand. My dog showed a lot of interest in this chair but didn't sit. So as a bed bug dog handler or investigator or a pest control operator, you're going to inspect both. This one, I'm pretty sure we're going to find bugs here because the dog actually alerted. Here, I'm going to search through the chair because I think there might be something there. So sorry, I must be catching a cold. And you're going to look, right? And try to find something. Here at the nightstand, if you don't find something, you're probably going to throw the nightstand out for sure because the dog gave you the full thing, right? The full sit, the full everything. Over here, you're going to decide whether you think you need to throw away the seat, the chair, or you're going to put it outside, or you're going to monitor it with some monitoring devices, which they do have. And you see, you approach them differently based on what it is you're able to find. The dog sat and showed you there's something there. The dog showed interest, but didn't show us the full alert, right? Investigate, try to figure it out. If you don't figure it out, determine what it is you want to do. You can still throw it out, right? That's still an option. But you are going to maybe monitor it because it's like a $300, $700 chair, and you don't necessarily want to throw that out. The nightstand, gone. Because he sat, and I could see in his face, in the look, and the lick, he licked his lips after he sat. There's bed bugs there. We just can't find them. All right? Now, if that's a narcotics dog, if a narcotics dog does that, you're going to do the same thing if you're inside already. You got your search warrant, your dog is searching, you have an alert at the nightstand, you have an alert at the chair, you're going to search both, right? But you're pretty sure you're going to find something there. You might find something there, but it's not, it's not present. If you don't find it here and your dog didn't alert, you're going to go, okay, where else could the odor be coming from, right? Could it be that above there is maybe an air conditioning vent that's blowing out? Where is that air coming from? Where is the intake, right? And so you're going to follow that to the intake, and there's where you find the cache of narcotics, right? So what's happened is it's taken the odor from another place, it's distributed it over here, it comes out in the air conditioning and has deposited itself on the chair. So that is good information, whoever wrote that the information the dog tells you based on a interest and not an alert could lead you to an actual find, right? Or you lift up the seat and there is a tennis ball stuck in the cushions, or there is a sandwich stuck in the cushions. You go, oh, that interest was not. And the reason he didn't sit is because it wasn't narcotics, right? He showed interest because there was something he was interested in, a sandwich or his ball, but it wasn't the actual substance. So it answers the question, right? We know why he sat there, because there's a kilo of Coke in there. He showed interest here, not because there's a kilo of Coke, because there's a sandwich. Or it led to the investigation, which led to the find. Does that make sense? So your remark is correct. It could help in the investigation, but the reason the dog didn't sit is because of this, right? You've taught the dog that there's a threshold. I don't sit for residual odor, but I do sit for actual substance. And I do show interest. Dogs show interest in a lot of other things, and the interest in that way was proven to be something else. I hope that answered the question and addressed it appropriately. This is so weird. They must have updated this software because it looks completely different than it did before. Great. Thanks to watch the videos. Good. Because all me chatting away in ghost mode, apparently. Yeah. I don't know why. It normally would have your name next to whatever it is you said, and I'm not sure why it's not doing that. And that's one of the reasons why I like Be Live. That's the one I used earlier, because I can see everything and I can put your comments up on the screen and share them with everybody else. Can any breed be trained for scent work? Chrissy, You're successful more often with certain breeds like Belgian Malinois, Terriers, Spaniels. Did I say German Shepherds, Malinois, and the Labrador Retrievers, Golden Retrievers, that kind of stuff? Those kinds of dogs, you're going to have greater success. Can you train a Shar-Pei to be a detection dog? It depends. You could, probably, if you found the right dog that had the right interest. Some dogs just aren't interested. If you've ever... so we use the toy reward system here. So you find a dog that has a strong desire for a toy. If the dog has a strong desire for the toy, and not just to play with the toy, but also to hunt for that toy, if he'll hunt for it, then there's a really strong chance you can teach him to be a scent detection dog. And I found breeds that you would not think would do that, like a Chow, forgot the other breed that he's mixed with, Chow and Keeshond mix, right? Whoever has seen a detection dog that's a Chow Keeshond mix, or that's a Chow or a Keeshond? No, never. But this dog, Maverick, was maybe one of the best detection dogs I've ever had the pleasure of training, and he was fantastic. And he was aggressive and bit me severely. And so, a great dog, great detection dog, just had anger issues. But I've had Malinois that never would search for anything ever. I've had German Shepherds, same thing. So there's no guarantee that those breeds also will make a detection dog. So I'm not going to say that you can't. You just have to make sure that you have a dog that does like to hunt. You don't want to create a hunting dog through starvation, which sometimes food reward dogs are done that. Now, there's people that out there that train their dogs with food. They have great success. They never starved the dog in their life. I understand that. I've seen those dogs. There are some really good dogs. My peanut dog that I went on National Geographic with and won the competition for Showdown of the Unbeatables, food reward dog, and maybe one of the few food reward dogs that I've even told anybody about that I've trained. Fantastic dog. Has saved the Kendall's life probably 10 times by now. Fantastic dog, food reward, and fantastic. All right, so I don't send me all your messages that I have something against food reward. I just think that the toy reward dogs are just the better way to go. So you have to make sure that that desire for that thing that causes them to hunt, that they want to hunt for it, and when they find it, they want to perform a trained behavior, an obedience type of thing, and so you have to make sure you have to find that kind of dog. Now, not all dogs want to do that. If you've ever had a dog that you've thrown the ball for, that kind of looks at you like you're an idiot, like, why am I going to go? You go get that ball and you bring it back to me, right? That dog probably would not make a great detection dog for food, nor for a toy. If you have dogs that get afraid when they go into a room for the first time and kind of stop and go, well, I'm a little scared, and don't want to go in, probably not going to be a great scent detection dog, because you have to be able to take these dogs in new environments all the time and try to get them to find something that they've never seen before. And so you might need to do that. I'm getting all these comments coming up, but I don't see them coming up here. Boxers. I have Boxers. He's already doing find it as a game. Yeah, you know, boxers are just funky dogs sometimes. And I don't mean to, I'm not picking on your dog. Your dog's probably perfect, Christy. But boxers can sometimes be a little bit of a pain. But I have seen some boxers as detection dogs and doing the work. Their nose sometimes is in a weird position too. So to me, it's odd the way that they have to kind of bend their head down a little bit more to use the nose that's up on top of this differently shaped snout. So to me, they look kind of funny. What's it called? What's the sport called? Oh, fun nose work. Fun nose work that we have taught from time to time, and actually am friends with the creator of Fun Nose Work. You know, we've seen some different dogs, you know, just different breeds that have done really well in fun nose work. I'd not say that they would be great as narcotics dogs or bedbug dogs where somebody's paying you to do a service, that they would be that great, but they do pretty good and do pretty good searches. And you name the breed, and it's probably been in there with Great Danes. We've seen, I'm pretty sure we saw a Chihuahua in there. It might have been a mix of some sort, but we've seen some different dogs. So that was a really long answer to that question, and I know I went on forever. SAC is important. Read the dog, but he must find the real substance. Yeah, at minimum, I'm hoping that you're going to get this, is that you only want to reward for when they search for and find actual substance. Only reward for that. Through not rewarding them through the interest or actually even alerting to this other stuff, you're gonna teach that threshold where we don't want to find stuff that it doesn't matter. We only want to find stuff that matters. right? We only want to find the stuff that actually is going to take us to the place where we're going to make a decision based on treatment for bed bugs. We want a dog that finds something that allows us to get a search warrant, so that when we find what's in there, the guy goes to jail, or girl, right? I don't want to be gender. I want to be gender neutral. I want to take both men and women to jail, not just men. All right, just so you know. So women, you need to go to jail too. What was the other thing? Bombs, right? We want to find bombs. Now, the difference with a bomb dog is that in some cases you want to know where the bomber touched the doorknob to go in to set his bomb, right? You want to see that interest, and you want to read your dog, and you want to take that as information, and sometimes even alert. So you have to decide what it is you're doing. We've been asked to train some dogs for another Middle Eastern country, and in regard to mine dogs, there's a difference for training mine dogs for mines that are buried down in the ground, as opposed to strapped to the back of the refrigerator or something like that. There's a difference of the way the dog learns to search, and a pattern to that's completely different. So everything has its own little thing that you want the dog to do, and the threshold may be different based on what it is you're looking for. A cancer dog, we want the dogs that can find residual odor, right? I mean, that small, microscopic, right? And so we want this found, right? This is too late, right? If there's a tumor, we know that it's something happening. In a cancer dog, we want early detection of cancer. We want minute cells, one cancer cell we want that dog to find. So we encourage this with that dog, right? Do you see how the difference is? We can reward a dog for finding this, and teach them not necessarily to ignore that, but that's not what we're interested in. Because if there's substance in regard to cancer, you got it, right? You got this huge tumor, you're having strokes, and all this stuff is going on. But no, the purpose of a cancer detection dog is for early detection, right? And so we want the dog to find small, minute particles. In our E. coli salmonella, for contamination on produce for the state of California, we wanted the dog to find 0.01 microliters of contamination before it got out into the public. And so we needed the dog to find this. We didn't need that. If we could see a pile of doo-doo, when was the last time I said doo-doo? Of crap on something, we don't need the dog, right? No, we need the dog to find this. And so we want to encourage the dogs to find this. So with those dogs, it's just the opposite. When we're talking about bed bug dogs and everything else, we're talking about this actual substance. Wow, I'm getting onto some crazy things there. I'm hoping you're all enjoying this. I have a Labrador dog trained with Aldo. Fantastic. Aldo may be now one of the best dog trainers on the planet. I'm not afraid to say that he's surpassed me in many areas. He came to me as a student, and now is just an amazing trainer. Here in the United States, if you have a dog that needs, especially a problematic dog that's causing you some problems, give us a call. Aldo will change your life and change the dog's life. And I'm glad you're watching, whoever you are. It just doesn't say who you are. This really stinks that there's no names to go along with the words that you're typing. Really kind of stinks. I would take a picture of it and show you, just so you can see what I'm seeing, which is nothing. He's totally awesome. He has a little longer of a snout. Oh, you're a boxer. He's already a therapy dog. Fantastic. And he's learning finding and retrieving. Just thought it would be cool to add to his training. Yes, you can do it. With the boxer, what you just want to begin to do, if he's already finding stuff, and it sounds like he is, I had a trainer once, Galvin was his last name, Elias. Elias taught his dog to find the remote, and it was a really fun thing. It was great for demos. And he would tell his dog, because, you lose your remote all the time. As a matter of fact, I can't find my Apple TV remote. That's the only thing about the remotes for Apple TV. They're so small, they fit in these little tiny cracks and crevices, and you can never find them. So anyway, I need to follow Elias's lead there and train the dog to find the Apple remote. I will make $1 million on finding these remotes. So it was fun. So you can teach your dog to do stuff like that. If that's all you're interested in doing, just have fun with it. And we would actually use you in our demonstrations at the Pet Expo every April that we have in Orange County, and give a demo of your dog finding whatever it is you train your dog to find. So that would be fantastic. If you train your dog to find something, either the normal thing, bombs, narcotics, bed bugs, we would use you there. But if you want to teach them to find something just for fun, something different, that would be awesome too. So Great to hear. You know, the great thing is teaching your dog this fun nose work, or, you know, finding the remote and that kind of stuff. It just gives you more time with your dog. That is just so valuable to the dog, so valuable to the relationship. And that's why you got a dog, right? You didn't get a dog just so you can get him and put him in the backyard and see him only during feeding time, and even sometimes forget to feed him because he's in the backyard, she's in the backyard. You've just forgotten about her because she's just a blob that is now costing you time and money for picking up poop, if you do pick up the poop on a timely manner. And oh my gosh, I don't know why it's supposed to be rotating. Dang technology. These games that you can play, these things that you can do with your dog, just adds more to your relationship. It just gives you something more to do. And I think that that you're doing that you found these other jobs for your dog, I think is a great tribute to you, to who you are. You have thought, you know, I got a dog and now I want to do stuff with my dog. Right? I don't want to just let him be just this dog that sits around the house or in the backyard. And we don't have a relationship. All of our training, sorry, I'm trying to find something here that will stick around. I'm not sure why that's not sticking around. I'm just going to change it and see if this thing will stick around a little bit longer. The aspect, I just love the fact that you're doing more stuff with your dog, and you guys have this relationship. Even it sounds like a working relationship in regard to therapy dog and that kind of stuff, I think is so dang cool. And that's what it's all about.